Hey everybody, Bryce Koon, and we are back here on the Crowded Booth with Swarm Talk, presented by Section 103, the best Georgia Tech gear that you will find. Listen, hey, we've taken a little bit of a hiatus, as some of you know, some stuff off camera, but really and truly was been sick all week. But we are finally back, finally feeling just a tad bit better. So I said, hey, let's talk Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, and I think that I want to talk about, in my opinion, the biggest key. There's been a lot of talk. You've listened to a podcast. You've watched a show. Maybe you watched Locked On Ole Miss last night or this morning, where I went on with Steven and talked about, kind of my thoughts on what might happen. But I think that we have to talk about this, and I think that there's one big glaring thing that Georgia Tech is, in my opinion, going to struggle with in this game, and they will have to overcome if they want a chance of winning this football game. All that and more on today's episode of Swarm Talk.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Well, happy Friday, everybody, as you're getting ready to go to the game. Maybe it's heading to Atlanta from out of town. Maybe you are just, I don't know, maybe you're almost in the stadium and you just throw some AirPods in, you throw your favorite headphones in, you're listening to this wherever you might be, whether that's on podcast form or it's over here on YouTube. I encourage you, hit the subscribe button, set up notifications because we got some great stuff coming up. Let's talk about this game. It's a big one, and I think that there's no doubt from the national perspective that this is a game that Georgia Tech doesn't have much of a chance. The line was 16.5 the last time I looked. People are hammering, taking Ole Miss in the points with this. But I want to talk about this game because I think it's an important game to understand. And let's start off with kind of where Georgia Tech is coming into this game. Many of you know 1-1, the loss to Clemson. The win against Western Carolina. I threw a tweet out late Saturday, early Sunday morning saying there's no such thing as a bad win for this team. They needed to get one. They had lost 7 straight. They had to win a football game. There's no doubt about it. But I think the problem heading into this game is offensive concerns. For me, at least, Ole Miss's defense seems to be better. We talk a lot about the transfer portal, what they did on the offensive side. The defense has a lot of names. On the back end, they're going to give a 3-safety look, which is something Jeff Seams really hasn't seen before. How does he manage that? But I think that when we talk about this game, you talk about the next 3 weeks and what this means for Jeff Collins and the future of Georgia Tech. Look, I won't say that tomorrow is a must-win game. It's not a must-win game, but it's a must-be competitive game. Year 4, all the narratives, all the stories, I've seen the Twitter groups, I've seen the Facebook groups, the divide of the fan base. I think this is an important game for Georgia Tech to go out and play competitively on Saturday at home in a primetime slot on a primetime channel, 3:30 on ABC. But to say it's a must-win game, I don't think it is because it puts an unfair amount, and it's really, as a Georgia Tech fan, to me it's kind of sliding what Ole Miss is and what they probably are this year, which is a solid, 8-9 win team. But they have some concerns offensively that Georgia Tech, I think, can exploit. So let's talk about it. Let's start off first with defensively for Georgia Tech. I think the defensive line in this game can have an impact and has to make an impact if Georgia Tech wants to win this game. Keon White with 3 sacks. He's in the top 10 nationally already. He has to have the motor. I think that you're going to have to get other guys involved. The interior pressure has been good. The run defense has been fantastic. And against Zach Evans and this group of monsters they have in the backfield, and what Lane Kiffin likes to do offensively, they've got to be disciplined. They have to make their presence felt. Another thing that I'll tell you with this is the edge rushers. We need to see a guy like Noah Collins. We need to see a guy like Josh Robinson. We need to see some of these other names, Sylvain, Kyle Kennard, really have a big game alongside Keon White to start to establish kind of a terrifying edge something like that in this game, because Keion White's going to be slotted in the interior, in the exterior. He's going to be put a lot of different places to make plays. So there's that. The defensive line has to play well in this game. They've got to continue the trend against the run, and they've got to also be very, very good in disrupting whoever's playing quarterback. The linebacking core. We already know what Charlie Thomas means to this team. He's not the biggest guy. He's not a guy that pound for pound is going to be able to match up with a pulling guard or a fullback or a heavy-set running back, but the guy plays well above his size. He's hands down, in my opinion, right now, one of the best players on this defense, if not the best player on the defense. Rangy, can do a lot of things very, very well, and we see the energy that he brings to this group when he's on the field. Game against Clemson, when he left, it was a different ball game. When he came into the game against Western Carolina, things kind of calmed down. A.C. Lee, a good general out there on the field. The part that's going to be tested in this game that I don't think we've seen through the first two is the secondary. All this talk about being rebuilt, all this talk about being better, having more depth. If you are able to see, if you've paid attention to the snap counts, that depth has not been used. Zamari Walton and Miles Sims have played an ungodly amount of snaps the first two games. So you're going to have to see guys. Kenan Johnson's going to get a lot of reps. Kenyatta Watson, who's played about 27 snaps through the first two games, he's going to be counted on. Travaris Tillman came out and said he's our best cover corner. Well, he's going to have his presence felt, and so those guys have to stay ready in a game like this to be able to make an impact. It's going to be, to me, where you're going to have, and Jeff Collins said this, around 25 players defensively that are able to come in and play against an opponent like Ole Miss, because you're going to be tested through the air. Listen, the offensive line for Ole Miss is not as strong, and so that does it begs two different things. I think it brings into question what is the impact that the defensive line can play into this game for Georgia Tech, but it also, Lane Kiffin is way too good of a play caller to just have his quarterback, whether it's Altmaier, Dart, whoever it is, sit back in the pocket like a statue. He's going to move him around. He's going to get him on a bootleg. He's going to get him outside the pocket to create some separation with an offensive line that maybe is, up until this point through the first two games against Troy and Central Arkansas, has not delivered where they want. I think with that it's going to be a test for the secondary. They're going to have to stay disciplined. They're going to have to be able to cover where a defensive line may not be able to dominate. We would like to see them dominate, but will they be able to dominate in a game like this? I'm not so sure that we're going to be able to see just straight up manhandling, because Lane Kiffin's going to do a good job of moving the quarterback around and giving him some different angles and avenues to get rid of the football. This offense has potential for explosion. We all know what Ole Miss can do. They haven't shown it quite yet. I think they're still trying to figure some things out, but this is where it could come together in Atlanta on Saturday. I mean, Lane Kiffin, I don't bet against him because he's just that good of a play caller. He's that talented of a guy that can go back there and scheme something up. He can take his weaknesses and make them strengths, and then he can also find your weakness and create it even and exploit that and really, really over and over again continue to do just that. So there's that take. Now let's flip over to the offensive side of the football. This is the part that really, really concerns me for Georgia Tech, because Ole Miss doesn't really care about time of possession. They don't really care about how many times they touch the football. It's more, every time we do touch the football, we're going to score. And I think that Georgia Tech is going to have to establish a run game in this game to be able to control time of possession, control the clock, and limit, and look, you've heard this before if you're a Georgia Tech fan, limit the amount of times the opponent touches the football. Because if they try to play straight into the hands and play a hurry-up style, an up-tempo style of offense, right now, Jeff Sims has not shown the capability this season to be able to do that. Now, we understood he played a very, very good defense in Week 1. Week 2, just a lackluster performance from him. Didn't really do a lot. It was really more of game plan towards running the football. So I don't necessarily trust Jeff Sims right now in the sense to turn and make this a game where it's just going to be a shootout. We haven't seen that. CBS Sports, with the Cover 3 podcast, guys did a good job breaking this game down, and they had a bold take of saying, look, we don't know if Georgia Tech's going to score, double-digit points this game, Because the second that you try to run the race with a team like Ole Miss, you force mistakes. You do some things that can hurt you. There's going to be a 3-safety look over the top that Jeff Sims really hasn't seen. That type of defense has given teams struggles, and it gave Ole Miss struggles where Matt Corral threw 6 interceptions against Arkansas last year. You're trying to force things. You're trying to find tight windows that maybe aren't there. And so for Georgia Tech to give themselves a chance offensively, look, you just had a game where you ran for over 215, 220 yards. You need to duplicate that success somehow. Your offensive line's got to play well against a really talented defensive front for Ole Miss. They're going to have to do some things that I think that we haven't seen them do up until this point. And it's more of, do you have faith that they can do that? Dante Smith, we know what he can be. We really need to see Dylan McDuffie and Hassan Hall be more involved into the offense. I think utilizing Jeff Sims' legs in this game is going to be huge to create that dual threat while giving him those short to intermediate passes. But there is a key in this game for Georgia Tech that I think they're going to also have to lean on. While you're establishing the run, one thing you couldn't do in week 1 against a top 25 opponent that you will be able to do is I think that you're going to be able to take some shots down the field. Now, the question of whether you can be successful depends and hinges on a lot of things. Ole Miss has a talented back half as well, and Georgia Tech hasn't looked very consistent on the deep ball so far yet this season. You're going to have to get some shots downfield to spread this defense out. Because if Ole Miss says we know they want to run the ball and we don't believe they can throw the ball on us, they're going to stack 8, 9, 10 guys into the box, play single high safety coverage, and say, we dare you. We're going to play man coverage on the outside. We're going to play single high safety. We dare you to try to run on us. And I think that the thing is they're going to try to create scenarios where we've seen Jeff Sims struggle before, and that's forcing the ball into windows of opportunity that are low success rate, high risk, low reward type of scenarios. So I think that this game can beg a lot of what Jeff Sims is as a quarterback. I don't think it's a must-win game, but I think we're going to learn a lot about what Jeff Sims is in 2022 in this football game. Has he matured in the mental capacity of making the right decisions, understanding that, you can live to play another down? And can this offense really establish an identity? No identity in week 1 whatsoever. Not a lot of teams are going to have success against that Clemson front. In week 2, nasty weather. They really leaned on the run, which I think can be a strength of this team if the offensive line plays well. But how does that translate to better opponents? But look, the next 3 weeks are going to tell you a lot about where this program is and how the changes they made, how the work has paid off, how the results have paid off. There's not going to be really any time for any more press conferences talking about we did a lot of work in the offseason. Now you're getting into the part of the season where weeks 3, 4, and 5 coming up. It has to be, what are we doing now? What are we doing in practice now? What are we going back to? What are we doing? What are we correcting? What are we talking about? So there is an avenue, and I'll say this, it wouldn't shock me if Georgia Tech won this game. There's just a lot of questions, I think, offensively that I need answered to feel comfortable trying to put them in an upset situation. Ole Miss, listen, they have a lot of questions as well. They are far from a perfect team. We've seen there's probably only, 1, maybe 2 really elite teams right now at this instance in college football. Ole Miss being a top 25 program, number 20, 17, whichever ranking you prefer. There are some things that I think that are question marks for them. Their offensive line. The quarterback position is not as effective as it was last year, and it shouldn't be. Matt Corral was an extraordinary talent. Altmaier or Dart, whoever starts this football game, it's going to be interesting to see how they play on the road. Lane Kiffin said that. How do you take these guys on the road who haven't played in a road environment together? Remember, this is a fairly new squad as well. Everyone's dealing with some of the effects of the transfer portal. So for Georgia Tech, I think you have to establish early what you want to do. If they can establish a run, all bets are off in this football game. I think if they can control the line of scrimmage on both sides, that would be huge. That would be massive. And then you got to win the turnover battle. Georgia Tech, they're going to be fighting from behind against an offense that could go off at any moment in Ole Miss. If you can force them into some bad decisions, force the quarterback to make a throw he doesn't want to, get some pressure and force a bad decision, that bodes well for you. It really, really does bode well for you. But the predictions have been all over the place, and so I'm going to end today's show with kind of this. Georgia Tech has the talent to compete with Ole Miss. They really do. Ole Miss is not one of in my opinion, the upper echelon of the SEC. They're more of the mid-tier team right now, as they kind of rebuild off of what happened last year for them. A fantastic season that saw them playing in a New Year's Six Bowl. But I think in this game that you see is, where does Georgia Tech's coaching put them? How do they put them in the best position? Because they have the talent to compete. It's going to come down to coaching and then execution. Can the players execute where the coaches put them? And do the coaches put the players in the best situation? How is that marriage fitting here in Week 3 against Ole Miss? That's going to be a big question for me. And so with that prediction, I told you earlier I don't bet against Lane Kiffin ever. I think he's a mastermind offensively. This is a game where I think that Georgia Tech is probably competitive for about 3 quarters, and in the fourth quarter, Ole Miss starts to pull away. That's why my final score in this game is going to end up being Ole Miss 31. I have the Rebels putting up 31 points in Bobby Dodd, and then Georgia Tech 17. I think that this could be a close game. It's going to be interesting. 31-17, I think that's nothing to slouch your shoulders about. It's a quality opponent that probably is just a little bit better than you right now, and you lose by 2 touchdowns. Not entirely terrible. This game does have the potential to also be worse than that. I think that's me being a little bit more on the favorable side. I think Georgia Tech's offense is going to be able to show some signs of continued improvement, but where's the consistency? It'll be interesting to see. Hey, listen, we really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for being patient as we kind of unfurled some stuff over the past week. Taking care of some business. We're not going anywhere, though. My name is Bryce Koon. I cover Georgia Tech for 24/7 Sports. GoJackets.com. Check us out over there. Also, check us out, thecrowdedbooth.com. Presented by Section 103. This is our Georgia Tech show where we talk it weekly. We're going to be moving to more consistent content as well. Have fun at Bobby Dodd. Make sure to pack the place out. And we will be talking a quick instant reaction video about what happens and transpires on Saturday. That's all for today. We'll catch you next time. Make sure to subscribe. Hit the notifications bell for notifications when we go live or a new video is posted.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.